All right. Hey guys, this is Erika. So we are going to have a live handstand class here for Bohemian Island. All right. So to be honest, I've never done a live before, so this is pretty cool. I can see everyone logging in and with questions, so that is awesome. So a little bit about me, but I won't bore you guys too much. I've been doing handstands for about 5, maybe 6 years. I started first with yoga, then started to transition more into hand balancing. I've really been seriously training them for about 4, maybe 5 years now. So yeah, and I fell in love with them, and that's what made me want to become a teacher, because it brought me so much joy. So I want to bring that to you guys. Also, some of you guys follow me, know what I do. Yeah, a lot of people have been thinking that I've been doing this ever since I was a little kid, or as a gymnast or a dancer. No, I didn't start handstands or really anything athletic until I was an adult. So that's another thing that really excites me about being a teacher, because this stuff did not come naturally to me. I haven't just always been doing it. It wasn't just intuitive. So I really had to develop methods and learn how to do it and overcome a lot. So that actually, even though some parts of me wishes I have been doing it for a long time, that actually helps me as a teacher, because I still know what it's like to be a beginner. I still remember dealing with all those struggles and having to learn body awareness and having to learn the concept of balance and all of that. But yeah, enough about me. I actually did a blog recently for Bohemian Island, so the link is on my page as well as on the Bohemian Islands page. So if you're interested in learning a little bit about me personally, check out that blog. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started on some handstand stuff. This is a beginner directed class, so none of the things are assuming that you actually have a handstand. All of our drills are going to be with a wall or with a table or a chair. So yeah, before we get started, if you have access to some sort of surface, I'll be demoing with a chair, bench, you can probably use a couch, anything like that. So some of our drills will be involving that. If you do have a partner today, your quarantine buddy, be great to use them maybe as a spotter or just an assistant, to have a second eye on you. Usually when I teach workshops, I always pair people up, so it always helps to work with someone, just having to give those extra cues, that extra security of a spot, even with things using the wall or using the chair. So yeah, other than that, pretty much all you need is your body and a yoga mat. Optional for a foam roller for some stuff, but mostly probably not. So yeah, okay. So one of our biggest things with handstands is the hands and the wrists. So we always start everything warming up the hands and the wrists. So we're gonna go through my standard wrist warm up. So you're gonna come on to hands and knees. You'll take your hands, flip them around, fingers facing backwards. So thumbs turn out, just like this. All right, so right here, you're just gonna take about 3 to 5 circles each direction. Try not to let the heel of the hand lift, so actively press down and forward through the heel of the hand. While you guys are taking those circles, I'll get rid of my hair. I love it, but it's a lot and gets in the way of pretty much everything. All right, once you've got those 3 to 5 circles each direction, you're just starting to actively stretch those out. Stay right here. Now you're going to press through the fingers and lift just the palm of the hand right here. So see, I'm actively pressing through the knuckles. From the side, looks like this. So notice how my shoulders are over my wrists. So I'm going to find as much range of motion possible. If you don't have this much range, that's okay. Hi, Surya. It's my baby. So I'd rather you stop right here than to lift the whole hand. So keep those fingers actively pressing down and pushing weight into it, pushing my shoulders. So once you start to get comfortable with this range, now we're gonna do 10 reps, just like this. So I'm not flopping back right here, actively pressing through. Think of this like a little hand push-up. So about 10 reps here. Let's just get a couple more. Awesome. Okay. Next one, this one's a little more challenging, especially if you're not used to doing stuff on your wrist, which that's a huge point I'd love to make. You're only as strong as your weakest link. You should not be doing handstands if your wrists aren't developed enough to support them. So wrist pain is normal at the beginning, but it's a thing just like anything else. It's a stress and recover process. So we need to work on our wrists in order to then be able to bear that weight. We're used to walking around on our feet all day, but we're not used to being on our hands all day for most of us, unless you're an avid yogi or hand balancer or do those kind of movement things. So we need to develop that joint. So it's really, really crucial. When I first started my handstand journey, I did anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes of wrist work almost every day. Of course, listen to your body. If it's really sore, ease up on it, but please don't neglect the wrists. All right, so the next one, you're gonna go onto the back of the hand. I'm gonna use my other hand to glue it down. From here, I'm going to wrap my bicep forward, my tricep back. So that's this area, forward, back. Or you can think about it, the elbow. I'm gonna wrap the eye of the elbow forward and my elbow back. I'm keeping my chest broad and open, and I'm pushing the ground away. So, boom, right here with the shoulders. See how it comes from my shoulder blade? I'm not rounding my shoulder forward towards my head, right here. Okay, you're gonna glue it down with the other hand so this doesn't wanna spin. Now I'm gonna wrap it the opposite way that I just told you. And now I'm gonna wrap it back forwards. Each time we're going through a full range of motion. So no floppy, sloppy, limp, lazy stuff. Nobody likes that. Strong, purposeful, complete movements. Intentional about that whole range. Each time you're trying to go for a little bit deeper range, and I'm pushing weight into it. This will be easier if you're closer to your body, harder the further away. Either way, I want your weight over, so we're not leaning back from it. You're gonna do 10 reps on one side and then switch to the other side. So you're gonna find that full range, gluing that hand down, pressing away. Once you've found that full range and you're comfortable with it, and this might be really tough for some people, especially if you're not used to this. And again, 10 slow, intentional, complete movements. So most of you guys will stick with this. If you have pretty developed wrists and this is not excruciatingly painful for you, you'll do both hands at the same time. Again, this will be easier if it's closer into your body, harder if it's further away. The whole time, again, you're leaning weight onto it. But again, if you cannot straighten your arms for this whole exercise, you do not have an elbow joint completely straight. For this whole movement, elbows are completely straight. So if you're buckling out, just go back to the one hand at a time. All right, so next one, your hands are going to be facing forward. So for most things with handstands, we don't want our middle fingers forward because that kind of internally rotates our shoulder a little bit. We want our index fingers parallel. So you can see right here, my index fingers are parallel to each other. So I'm gonna draw a line with them, spread my hands. This is pretty much the position that we're gonna want most of the time for handstands. And hands are exactly shoulder width apart. I want my weight over my knuckles, so I'm leaning my shoulders over my knuckles. I'm not leaning back and away from it. So from the side, looks just like this here. See, my shoulders are over my knuckles. Most of the time for this, you're gonna feel like your shoulders are over your knuckles. They're actually going to be behind. So I say aim for shoulders over fingers, just to be safe. Again, this will be easier if your hands are closer into your body, less weight to do, harder if it's further away. So start in some middle round right here. Okay, so as we're here, first again, take about 3 to 5 circles each way, just playing with transferring the weight around. And the other way, start to feel the ground with your finger pads, so gripping the ground with your fingers. You may have seen some hand balancers, we grab the ground a lot. And focus on pushing weight through this index finger knuckle area, this whole middle spot. So the whole hand is important. You want all 4 corners of the hand, but bring extra attention to this area and grab the ground with the fingers. All right, now pausing here, keep those arms straight, wrap the biceps forward, triceps back just like before. Now, just like we did the opposite way, you're going to lift just the palm of the hand like a little finger push-up. I don't want this rocking back though. Keep the weight over the knuckles and press to lift. Nice and even. Try not to prop up using the thumb, and try not to lift the whole hand. So from the side, looks just like this. And see how I'm keeping my shoulders over those knuckles. This is the common thing. So again, if you have a buddy or a partner there, have them put their hand right here and see if you tend to lean away. If you do, bring the hands in closer. Now, if this is easy and you're able to do this with a good quality movement, start to move more towards a plank. Inch back a little bit more. But if they start to look wonky, start to bend the elbows, start to go this, move right back. So you're gonna wanna get about 10 reps at a place where you feel like you're challenged, but you can still get good quality reps. Cool. I'm gonna check in, see if there's any questions so far while you guys are finishing those wrist warm-ups. All right. Cool. Okay. So anyone want to jump in with any questions before we move on a little bit? Doesn't look like it. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about the shoulders. So everything, handstands are a straight arm scapular movement. Our scapula is our shoulder blade in the back. So we want this action not to just be jamming and resting into the joint. We want to support it by all of our muscles back by our shoulder blade. So a handstand, first I was taught in yoga, always slide the shoulders down and back, slide the shoulders down and back. Well, we have 4 main functions of the shoulder blades. We have protraction, retraction, elevation, and depression. From the side, protraction, pushing and spreading, retraction, drawing and squeezing. We have elevation, pushing up, and depression, drawing down. They all have a purpose. So for handstands, it's a pushing movement. So we want to be elevating and pushing up out of joint. If we slide our shoulders down and back, now we're just jamming into the joint rather than being supported by muscle. And I usually do this at my workshop or with my clients, and I actually have people sitting on your butt, otherwise you'll use your hands. You'll slide your shoulders down and push on their hands. And usually we end up, especially if you're strong, you're able to do it, but you use a lot of your shoulder muscle, your elbows start to bend and you're struggling and you're a little unstable. Then I have them reach, push, 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 then push on their hands and boom, I can wobble them all around and you're strong and sturdy. That's what we want for handstands. So boom, supported up through this. We also want this spreading of the shoulder blades. So from my back, it looks like this. See how I'm pushing up and out. So we're going to do a little exercise to help develop that. So you guys are all going to sit. If you have a partner, your partner will stand behind you and give you a target to reach for and make that a difficult target. So otherwise you'll do this looking at a camera or at a mirror so you can be really honest with yourself. I'll talk more about core in a little bit, but just as a little pre-think, think about wrapping those ribs in. Think about you're wearing a corset and someone's whoop, pulling the strings on that corset and making it nice and tight. You're sitting up straight and tall. All right, so we're gonna take our hands above our head. Now just feel first, you're gonna keep your elbows as straight as possible. You're gonna feel first what it is when you slide them down. Notice if you want to slouch into your torso. Notice if you wanna just let your elbows bend. Try your best to keep them straight and it move just through the shoulder blades. So slide them down, that's depression. And now reach up, a little higher, a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. If you have a partner, they're gonna be that target at the top and you're really gonna reach for it. We're gonna do 9 more reps like this. So now slide down, find that full range. And then up again, higher, push, 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 push. Try to get a millimeter more, push, good. And slide down, 8 more. And then up again, push, 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 push. And slide down, 7 more. And up, push, 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 and slide down. And 6 more, up, push, 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 a little bit more, get another millimeter, push, and down. And 5 more, and push, 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 reach any amount higher, stretch those fingers all the way up, and down. 4 more, and reach, push. It should be getting really difficult now, push, push. If it's not, you're not finding your full range, push, and down. Good, almost there, 3 more, and push, give it all you got. Push higher, keep those ribs in, push, push, stretch from the sides of the waist, push. Use everything in your shoulder blades, push, good, and down, just 2 more, and up, push. You guys should be hating me about now, especially if you're doing it right, push, 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 good, and down, 1 more, I'm hating myself right now, and push, 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 higher, push, push, good, and shake it out. So feel how, yes, you felt it in your shoulders, but it was about so much more than that. We're accessing, again, watching on my body, these we're so much stronger and more supported if we use all that. So keep that in mind when you're doing your handstands and any handstand drill. That was a huge game changer for me when I learned that. It feels awkward at the beginning sometimes and is difficult and it is challenging, but that changed my handstand game. And it really protects your shoulders in the long run, because if you're jamming into here, it's going to be bad. You're going to cause impingement there. Also, you're not going to be able to stay up that long. These muscles are not as strong as all of our back muscles. So all the dancey stuff that I do, if I were just sunken into here, I wouldn't be able to stay up that long. It's because I've created a strong, stable base there. All right. So moving on a little bit. How are you guys all doing? Let me see if I've got anything going yet. Oh. You guys are so sweet. Okay, so feel free to jump in with any questions if you do. Aw, so good to see so many of you guys. Okay, so jumping back to that. So that's just a little bit about our shoulder blades. Now we're gonna get on to core. So hollow body is the main, we hear this word a lot with hand balancing and really with all these gymnastics, calisthenics movements. So what is hollow body? And I'm going to use a lot of cues. Most of the cues are all more or less saying the same thing. We're just going to find different ways of communicating that. Something with teaching and a lot of different teachers, they're not necessarily saying different things. They're just saying it in different ways, and different students, different bodies are going to understand that in different languages, for more or less. So I'll say a lot of different things. Hopefully some of it might go over your head. Some of it might not translate the same. When I work one-on-one with people or at workshops, I kind of see what's registering with them, and I might use certain terms with person A, certain terms with person B, depending on what registers to them. For example, tucking your tailbone in a handstand, great cue, but a lot of times when they're actually in the handstand, tuck your tailbone, my baby, tuck your tailbone actually makes them pike their hips, because they think of tucking in, but they're not in a balanced spot, so then they fold at the hips right here and actually shoot their butt back. So maybe thinking of, for someone like me who does a lot of hip thrusts, I think hip thrust at the top of a handstand, and boom, that helps me tuck my hips into a posterior pelvic tilt and find this nice straight line, because I'm thinking hip thrust. Or for someone like the top of a kettlebell swing. But say someone who doesn't do kettlebell swings or hip thrusts, that doesn't translate into their head. So we'll find different ways. Okay, so for core, we're going to go through a couple exercises with this. Hollow body. Right now I'm in this arched neutral position, or an anterior pelvic tilt. What I want is a posterior pelvic tilt. So anterior, posterior. So I want everyone to get down on your mat just like this and start to play with both of them. I like to lift my hips up ever so slightly just to give me room to move, but you don't have to. So play back and forth just at your hips. I like to also have my hands on my hip bones right here so I can feel where they're going. When I'm in an anterior pelvic tilt, my hip bones are going to point forward towards my toes. And then when I posterior pelvic tilt, my hip bones are going to point up towards my face. So play with this a couple times. Yes, you'll squeeze your glutes as you posterior pelvic tilt, but I want a lot of it to come from this deep low belly. So tighten it up a lot. Don't let it push out, draw it down. Tighten it up. It's not a sucking in, because sucking will push our ribs up and we want to be able to breathe. It's that corset like I mentioned before. So pretend like you're wearing a corset and someone's pulling the strings on that. So while keeping that, bringing a lot of awareness to the control through that deep low belly, play with that posterior, anterior. If it helps to pick your hips up just ever so slightly, I don't want you up in a bridge though, just ever so slightly, play with that. All right, now everybody find that posterior pelvic tilt and set each low back vertebra down one at a time. And this is rock hard. Remember, we're activating it from that deep low belly. Now let's talk a little bit more about the upper part. So we don't want to flare our ribs out. This is part of that hollow body action too. So we want to be thinking of wrapping our ribs down and in. Just like our low belly and our pelvis tucks in and up, ribs down and in. All arrows will be pointing in towards the belly button. So you might want to shrug up a little bit just to give yourself a little space. So I press to my elbows. And now I'm going to think about pressing my bra line into the ground. Or for guys, if you don't have that, just think about that area right behind your sternum. So if I just think about wrapping my ribs, and it might not completely do that, but same thing, just like I said with the cues, if I think about pressing my upper back down, my ribs are gonna wrap down too. So now I'm creating this firm base. So tuck, wrap, boom. That's our hollow body position where it's generated from. So when we go through core exercises, you'll notice this is gonna help you not even just for handstands, for all sorts of things. So you notice a lot of times this belly protrudes up in the middle. We don't want that. We want to keep our actual core, which is this muscle that wraps all around, our corset muscle that I've been talking about. We want to keep that in. So again, I'm not sucking my belly in. I'm wrapping that corset. So whoop, keep that in tight. Don't let it protrude up. Same thing when we do lower ab exercises. Don't let that protrude up. Boom, keep that down. So we have that control through it. All right, so I'm going to guys take you through a little thing. I'm going to jump in. So pike, what helps us squeezing the ball between thighs? Yes, definitely too. Yeah, piking is a very, very common thing for most of us with that. Yeah, and it's that zipping up through the midline, and that's probably why it helps with squeezing a ball between your thighs. One of the cues I use is pretend like you're zipping up. So you're zipping up through the inner thighs and everything is squeezing in together. So that's that same thing. You can actually take a yoga block or a ball, squeeze that, and that's going to help create that tuck. And everybody's going to have their, sometimes an arch is coming from many different reasons. So just saying get rid of the banana back or tuck your hips, there's many reasons why that's happening, and for person A, for person B, it could be happening for different reasons. So it's finding the root of why that's happening, what their body's not understanding, what lack of strength there is. And you could have someone who has a ripped six-pack, and it's not because they have a weak core, but they don't have that. Surrey, no! Sorry. Surrey, no! I have a new couch, and my cats think it's a fun thing to scratch on. Okay, so yeah, when I encourage you with your own practice, when something's not happening, okay, why are my ribs flaring out? Really getting to the root of it rather than just, okay, try to wrap that in. What part am I not understanding? Some of us might think, but more from the back of our body, just like how I said, press that upper back. So in handstand, I actually think round through my upper back, and that helps me to draw the ribs in. A lot of times when people just draw the ribs in, they actually collapse down. So I like to think of rounding through the upper back. My cat is very sweet. Okay, so, all right, so going back to our core exercise, this is going to help with developing all those muscles. And again, think of this with all of your core workouts. Anyone who's done core with me before, I know you're super excited for some Erika abs. All right. So we're going to come into this little tuck first. So remembering all those things that I talked about, that posterior pelvic tilt, wrap the ribs in and keep that belly drawing down, that's cinching in. All right, so hands behind the head, elbows wide, knees in, round into a little ball. See, I'm curling my butt off the ground. That's that deep low belly, that pelvic floor that makes the hips weightless. That also is going to help with your presses if you're working on a press. And rounding through that upper back. If you don't have this much range, that's okay. You're gesturing towards that. That whole while you're thinking of squeezing the belly in, don't let it protrude up to that little mountain or a peak. Keep holding this. Squeeze like crazy. Think about getting your forehead to your knees to your forehead. Keep your left knee in now. Right leg extends out. See how as I extend it out, my hips don't get heavy. I'm not arching. I'm still keeping this lightness and this buoyancy here. You're going to hold and squeeze. Try to tuck the hips more. Try to draw the belly in flatter. Try to wrap, wrap, wrap. Both knees back in, round and tuck. Now keep your right knee in. Left leg slowly, mindfully extends out. Again, don't let the hips get heavy. Keep that tuck. Hold. Your hips are so light that I could almost slide a piece of paper underneath your butt. Both knees back in, round and tuck. One more time each side before we add on. Left knee in, right leg out. Again, keep the hips light. Keep them buoyant. Tuck them so much that I could almost slide a piece of paper underneath that butt. And back in, round and tuck. Curl the tailbone, curl the shoulders higher. Keep your right knee and left leg out. Cinch the belly down tighter. Wrap, wrap, wrap that corset on. Again, tuck the hips, get light and buoyant through them. Both knees in, round and tuck, squeeze. And relax for a second. Awesome. Okay, so I have a lot of variations of this core exercise. And you can do it with open hips, you can do it with neutral like we just did, and we can add on some little things like hip pulses, like shoulder pulses. So we are going to do those pulses now. As we add in the movement, it's not about the movement and what you're doing. It's about how much can you maintain all those cues that I talked about before, all those hollow body cues, all those activation cues while you're doing these subtle movements. So it's not about mindlessly repping out crunches. Most of my core exercises never go above 3 to 5 reps because it's not about just getting through the motions of that. And I actually don't even like to just call these a core exercise. I like to call them a core activation routine. I do this before every handstand practice and before every lifting workout that I do too. All right, so some of you, if you're a little more advanced and if you have taken a workshop or a private training with me before, go ahead and grab a foam roller. I'm going to demo on a foam roller, but it's very, very difficult on here. Foam roller just brings in this added aspect of balance and stability and control, and it makes it like a million times harder. So if you feel that that is inhibiting you from actually getting the correct activation, get rid of the foam roller for now. Come back to it. Okay. It's gonna have to be a long foam roller so your whole body can fit onto it. All right. So I'm going to lay on it here. Again, totally fine to not use it. One hand will be on the ground. So I'll keep this one on the ground for this demoing purpose. All right, so we're gonna come back to our tuck now. Everybody join me. Okay, try to lift that butt up any amount higher than last time. Try to squeeze any amount tighter than last time. Try to curl up any amount more. Okay, keeping the left knee in, right leg will extend out. Again, keeping light and buoyant through the hips, keeping that core set cinched on tight. Pulse your left knee in for 3, subtle movement, 2, generate from the low belly, and 1. Pulse just the shoulders up for 3, keep those ribs wrapped out. 2, don't let the belly protrude up to that little mountain or peak, and 1. Float the hips up now for 3, 2, 1. Notice when I'm doing the hip floats, I'm not trying to hop up. It's more of just that exaggerating that posterior pelvic tilt. All right, back in, round and tuck, squeeze. Right knee in, left leg out. Keep all those same things in mind. Think about this hollow boat-shaped curve. That's what hollow body is. I'm not hollow, now I'm hollow. Pulse the knee in for 3, 2, 1. Pulse the shoulders for 3, 2, 1. Pulse the hips for 3. Think float, not hop. 2, and 1. Both knees in. One more time each side. You guys got this. Lift, 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 squeeze. Give it all you got. And the stronger you are and more aware you are of your core, the harder you can make this. So you make the most of it. Left knee in, right leg out. And pulse for 3, 2, 1. Pulse shoulders for 3, 2, 1. Hips for 3, 2. Squeeze that low belly. And 1. Both knees in. Round and tuck. Curl up any amount higher. Squeeze any amount tighter. Right knee in, left leg out. Cinch that core set on tight. Pulse the knee in for 3, 2, 1. Shoulders 3, 2, 1. Hips 3, 2, 1. Both ends. Squeeze. And release. All right. So for sake of time, I'm going to stop right there. But if you're on your own, I recommend doing a little bit more of this. So you can add these into your home workouts in any way. So we did neutral. You can also do open, like a crow pose. This type of deal, rather than in. Same kind of thing. All right, let's check in. Questions. When I try to pull my legs in, my belly stops pulling up and pushes out instead. So that's a really common thing. So if you're having trouble with that, we back off a little. So that was a very challenging exercise. So just a little bit of anatomy nerd. So when that belly protrudes out, that's just our rectus abdominis. That's our top ab muscles. And those are a lot easier for us to use and usually the things that we default to. So yes, you see crunches all the time. And since we're not aware of it, we're not aware of drawing that down and using what's called our transverse abdominis. And that's this muscle that wraps all the way around our midsection. See, I have it disengaged. Now, I just cinched it on tight. So we have to back off a little. At the beginning with this, I thought that this just wasn't possible. I thought that I didn't have that muscle in me. I spent hours on my mat in front of my mirror with a video camera in simple little movements. Usually at workshops I go over this, and with privates I go over this. No, I'm not standing on the foam roller. I'm laying on it along my spine. long part. I go into the core stuff a little bit more detail, so that's why I said foam roller only if I know some people who have done workshops with me in the past, so if you are a little more advanced, do the foam roller. Maybe I'll jump on and do another live just going over core, but it's down the spine, and that's just to create some stability challenge. If instead of the foam roller, you can get creative with other balance challenges type things. Okay, so just backing off to the basics. If you're finding trouble with pushing up, you'll try here, go back into that spot like we were, and then try some simple movements like curl the shoulders up, look down at your belly. Notice the second that it's starting to push up, draw it down, and just hold that from here. Maybe just work on a couple pulses. Notice if it wants to do that. Just mindful, isolated movements. Same thing with the legs. Maybe right here, I'm going to just work on keeping this flat, pretend someone has a hand on your belly and don't want to feel it move up and down at all. And I'll just lift one leg, lift the other, down. Oh, I noticed it came out. Boom, stop right there, go back to that spot, lock that down, down, down. Okay, good, that stayed there. Up, up, locked in place, down. Oh, no, back, down, down, tight. You can try both legs at the same time. Ideally, this is what we want it to look like. See, nothing's moving right there? A lot of times that will happen. So just back off on the more complicated things. Isolate what's going wrong in a very simple way. Just like the shoulder thing we did at the beginning. That's really hard to do in handstand. It's hard to do even not in handstand. So rather than just yelling at someone in handstand, push through the shoulders, straighten the arms, let's take them right side up, take their body weight off, do it sitting down right side up. So same thing with core. If that was too complicated that you couldn't get the belly to not protrude up, back off from the pulses and the holds and just isolate it back. So everything, there's always a layer you can peel off and isolate it more. And yes, live core, please. Okay, I will definitely have to do just a isolated core class. So we are about 30 minutes in, so as much as I would love to continue with core some more, I will get on to more of the handstand stuff. And I love the feedback. We will definitely have to do just a full live core class because I could go a whole half hour, 45 minutes just on that alone. And it's such an important part of handstands. Core was my main jam, and if anything, that made me almost cheat with handstands. It let me get away with probably doing more than I was actually ready for because my core was so strong that I was able to support myself through things. Tight is light. The more you can tighten your core, the lighter everything else is going to be. That pelvic floor thing, how you see my hips float up. I was able to press to a handstand before I could jump into a handstand because my core was strong with that. And that's just going to help with everything else. Last little thing, a little bit of background why I was obsessed with core. I had really bad sciatica problems. And I couldn't even sit for 5 minutes. I couldn't drive a car. I couldn't walk without excruciating pain. When I was 22, only 22, and I had really bad sciatica problems. So doctors wanted to put me on anti-inflammatory pills. They wanted to give me cortisol shots. I didn't want to have to do all of that. So I got really obsessed with core and developing control through my pelvis and through my spine, and that saved me. So core is important for handstands and fancy stuff, for all workouts, and also just for life in general. Okay, but handstands, let's get on. So now we talked about the wrists, we talked about the shoulders. Let's get into a couple of my basic handstand drills. So if some of you guys are more advanced, I'll give some more advanced options, but these are assuming that you don't have a freestanding handstand, which is totally fine. So first we're going to do a belly facing the wall handstand. So hopefully you guys can see me from here. Couple ways to get up to the wall. So I want a nice free space on the wall. Probably the easiest way is to go into about a plank. So get somewhat close to the wall and step one foot up, step the other foot up. If you're really bendy, you can get closer to it. This is going to be less work, and basically just do a split up the wall, and then you're already almost there. Either way, you walk yourself up or go up. So as I'm doing this, notice I'm still always pushing through the shoulders. Don't let it sink into this spot here. Nope. boom, right here. Okay, I'm gonna walk myself up. I'm gonna get as close as I can. So I am creepy close to the wall. I'm gonna think of that, tucking my hips, wrap the ribs in, push away. If you feel like you're gonna fall over, come a little bit away. Notice if this is going on, notice if this is going on. So I'm going to think about stacking my shoulders over my wrists, tucking my hips just like we did on the ground, wrapping my ribs in, pushing from here. Maybe some of you are a little more nervous and will stay at about a 45-degree. You'll step yourself down, make sure you're not, especially if you're close to the wall, that you're not so tired that you're gonna collapse down. So don't hold for that long, especially on this first one. Make sure that you have enough energy in you to walk yourself down. If you are super bendy, you'll have a much easier time with this. You can simply cartwheel off the wall. Okay, so, but I'm concerned about doing a bad form. Okay, so a couple little things on this. Okay, so a couple little things. It's harder to see from just that one angle of the video. When I am in that handstand at the wall, one of the common things is for the ribs to touch the wall. So I'm thinking of that same pulling in, or just like when we were on the ground, pressing the bra line into the ground, or that slight rounding through the upper back. Same thing with the hips. I'm thinking of that hip tucking. So if you do hip thrusts, kettlebell swings, I'm thinking, boom, I want extension through the hips. A lot of time when we say tucking the tailbone, we tuck the tailbone, but this is just what happens. We're here, tuck, and that goes forward. So I want full extension through the hips too. One exercise that helps is an upright handstand at the wall. So you'll go creepy close to the wall, toes touching the wall. You'll reach up from here. I'll demo sideways so that you guys can see me better. So this is usually our spot. First, I'm going to think about pulling my hips off the wall right here. Then I'm going to think about pulling my ribs off the wall. Then I'm going to think about pulling my hands off the wall. Many of you, when you pull the hands off the wall, will let the ribs go forward. So can we hold this position? That's our standing upright handstand. So if you can find that, then we take that upside down. However, if you're finding, oh, when I pull the hands back, I break right here, then we need to isolate that a little bit more, or we need to work on our shoulder mobility a little bit more. So I hope that helped a little bit. So we're going to a couple more specific exercises with that belly facing the wall handstand now. So jump in with any questions if that wasn't clear. It's a little difficult when it's not hands-on. Okay, so I know it's a lot of complicated things. I want you to find your 1 to 2 main limiting factors. So whether that's, oh, the hips, I'm having a lot of difficulty getting my brain to communicate with the action with the hips, or that specific kind of core strength, or it's a shoulder thing, or, oh, I didn't realize that shoulder pushing thing before. That's the main thing I want to focus on. Or the hands. Some of us have never really thought about our hands before. Remember I said at the beginning, this area and grabbing with the fingers bring a lot of connection to just 1 to 2 main things. So other good upper body strengthening things. That'll probably need to be with another video, another class altogether. But the number one thing is this pushing thing. So if you can do that in other ways, which is one of the exercises I'm going to show at the wall, so handstand scapular push-ups, or even just wall holds of really thinking of pushing through, or taking it back to our warm-ups that we did. If that was really hard, which if you're pushing to your full range, just doing these and working on that will really help it a lot. Doing them at the wall, like this, in your handstand form will help that too. Also doing scapular push-ups in a plank form. That will help build that as well. Okay. Issues staying stacked in a free handstand, which wobbling through the shoulders and hips. So again, that will be in a little more advanced one. Usually working with a spotter and someone who minimally spots and not over spots. So you can start to feel it yourself. And it can be coming from a variety of different things. So A lot of it's with the fingers, lack of connection with the fingers. If you feel like you're going over, pull back with the fingers and don't lose shape through the body. A lot of times we go into this freak out mode of, oh, I'm not there, so we go into this noodle place. But if, boom, we can stay tight and then control from our base. We can, just like if you're standing on one foot and you start to lose balance, the more we do this, the harder it is to get back to balance, the more we're jumping around. But if we can stay tight, ground down through the toes and the foot, and the less movement we create through the rest, the easier it's going to be. Otherwise, we're fighting against more and more. So could be that with the fingers. Could be just a lack of that shoulder, that scapular control and that scapular specific strength. You can have big, strong shoulders. I work with CrossFit guys all the time who have massive, strong shoulders, but they haven't developed that specific type of scapular strength. So they're gonna be here. If you had a partner and you did this test from this spot in a deep press position and you have someone push on you, even if you really are strong here, there's gonna be a lack of stability. You're gonna be fighting against that if you don't have, boom, that support from the shoulder blades. So it can be working on isolating that more. It can be working on that core stability. That's why I do my core exercise on the foam roller, because it teaches me how to create stability from tightening my core. When I'm on here, if I'm relaxed and loose, I'm gonna fall off. But if, boom, I can stay really tight through that, I can have stability on it with no hands, no feet. And that takes a lot of practice to do. So yeah, that noodle place is very common to go to, and that can also be just working on getting comfortable in it against someone who's minimally spotting you, someone who spots just from here and just keeps you from losing it entirely, so that you can learn to get comfortable with being slightly off balance, and that, okay, I'm going, but I'm confident enough to save myself, and I'm not going to go into that, oh shit, I'm going over, ooh. So that helps too. Where did I put my head? Oh, I don't put my head down on the roller when I do those. Oh, for handstand, okay, head is just neutral. So I keep my gaze somewhere behind my, somewhere either between the thumbs or slightly behind the wrist. So you're in a neutral place right here, not kinked back. A lot of times in yoga, I heard at the beginning, look in front of your fingers, don't look in front of the hands, look somewhere between your thumbs or slightly behind your hands. I usually pick a spot on the ground to look at. Chin tuck handstand is a very advanced form of handstand. Don't recommend starting with that. That's a very, very challenging way to do. Okay. So back onto the specific drills so that we can get going, and I really love answering all the questions and going through all that. But we'll probably do some more expensive ones too. Okay, so a couple options. I'm gonna give a couple of things for wall facing handstands, and then we're gonna get our bench or our chair too. All right, so layer one for wall facing handstands. Find your spot like we just did on those intro ones, whether you're more diagonal or you can get as close as possible while still keeping as good a form as you can. And we're gonna hold for anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. So I'll give a quick demo on that. And then I'm going to show two more slightly more advanced versions. Okay, so you'll walk yourself up, play around with a little tuck. Don't let yourself break through the shoulders. Maybe go a little bit closer. So right here. Anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. Okay, for a slightly more advanced version, you're going to do some scap push-ups, like I was talking about before. This one, again, just go for about 10, maybe 20 seconds until you start to break form. If they're not quality form, or you're starting to dump through the torso, and this kind of thing, rather than keep it in the shoulder blades, then either go to just your holds or come down, take a rest. Quality reps. It's not quantity, it's quality. So these will look like this. Awesome. Okay. Oh, want to learn more about my diet? I'll write more about those too. Okay. Okay, so then the most advanced version is a full wall walk. The idea on this is keeping that Superman shape or that handstand shape the whole time, meaning we don't want to break at the hips, boom. We don't want to break at the shoulders and go to this spot. We want to keep this locked in place the whole time. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see me from the side here. So I'm going to find my Superman shape. I'm going to walk myself up. You'll do anywhere from 2 to 3 of those, maybe just 1. That whole while, I'm trying not to wobble, trying to keep it as still as possible, as tight as possible. Gripping blocks. I love blocks so much. Totally great to practice with them. As you get more advanced, sometimes it is considered cheating. They're really great ways to work on your one arms. I personally canes blocks. At the very beginning, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but they do make it so much easier because you have something to actually grip on. I'm a huge supporter of working with blocks. I can be up on blocks for probably twice as long as I can be on the ground, just because it gives that better connection. All the dancey things that I do, a million times easier on blocks because it really lets me grab and pull with the fingers. The more you can pull with the fingers, then we're not just placing our hand on the ground as it being a base, now we're engaging pulling muscles. So you can see too, kind of maybe with the lighting, as I engage my hand, this weird muscle right here. So as I engage that and pull with it, look what happens up through my tricep and my shoulder. I'm not thinking about flexing this. All I'm doing is activating my hand. You can see there. So the more you can pull with that, the more it's going to stabilize up everything too. Okay. One thing I don't like about kicking up back facing the wall, certain drills, so it's never bad all the time, certain drills it's okay, but I don't like how it encourages not getting your center of mass over your balance point. So your balance point is your hands, the center of your hand right here. It trains you to over kick in order to get up rather than find that spot. If you're very advanced and you're working on a drill that's, okay, I'm trying to kick up and toe pull off and not hit the wall, that's different, but I don't like it, especially for beginners, of encouraging that, getting the hips too far over. The most foundational concept of handstands is understanding where your center of mass is in relation to your balance point. So also it allows you to get up in bad form with the shoulders collapsed, with the hips over, doing all the things wrong, and still get the feedback of I'm in handstand. So you're doing a movement pattern incorrectly, but you're getting positive feedback. So doing the handstand how you're doing it, kicking up at the wall, if you did that in the middle of the room or you did it belly facing the wall, you'd probably get a little more obvious feedback of this isn't correct. So your body wouldn't learn that movement pattern. So forearms is great. So wrist pain, depending on why you're having wrist pain, always a good idea to also work on developing the wrist. Forearm stands are different, but yes, you can do a lot of these exercises in forearms. I don't know if you could do the wall walks in forearms, but when I have all my wrist issues, I do a lot of forearm work too. Okay, so I'm going to show so just a reminder for exercise for you to do. There are the static holds of belly facing the wall. Always good to have a partner too if you're a very beginner, just so that you don't feel like you're gonna fall over back ways. Doing scat push-ups at the wall, or doing wall walks. That's the most advanced version of keeping that handstand shape. Okay, so now I'm gonna show a couple things with a chair or the bench or a couch, whatever that is. You can also use a wall if you don't have anything to just create that L shape, but it's a little bit more difficult. All right, so getting our prop. Okay, hopefully you guys can kind of see that. So how to figure out what your L shape will be? You start by measuring. I'm going to sit down because that's how long I'm going to be. I'm basically going to flip this upside down. Obviously my toes are not going to be probably at the very edge. They're going to be in a little bit more. So I'm going to account for that, take my hands in a tad bit more. Okay, so to the sides of my hips. Having a partner or video camera tell you, especially if you're new to this, because a lot of times people think that they're in a stacked place when they're nowhere close. All right, so I'm going to step up and up. So a lot of times people think, oh, I'm here, but am I anywhere close? And they go in, they think they're gonna fall over. You'll see how I'm stacked now. Okay, so if you're a beginner, this is a great place to be. You can also bend your knees. If your hips don't go all the way up yet, that's okay, as long as, see, my shoulders are still over my knuckles, okay? So if you're working on some flexibility, that's totally fine. Otherwise, you're trying to get your hips stacked over as well. I just don't want the shoulders behind the wrists. Unless you're also working on some shoulder mobility. Okay, so I'm leaning my weight into my fingers. This might be a great spot for you. This might be a great place for you to work on your scat push-ups. Try to be mindful of not collapsing down through the torso with that. So just like you were doing on the upright ones. Okay, so just holding the L shape might be a great place if you're a new beginner. Working on scat push-ups is the next level up. Or just working on getting that push there. Okay, if you want to level up a little bit more, here's a great way of how to take yourself into that handstand line without a spotter. You can also use a spotter with this though, give you a little bit more confidence. Okay, so I'm right here, I'm in my stacked place. My hips are over my fingers. I'm going to take one leg up. Here's also where I'm going to realize if I'm letting my core go, if I'm letting my shoulders go. I can push up through that and start to lean over. I can play with that tap. Okay, bring that down, switch to the other side. You'll also know, again, if you're going to here, boom, lean my upper back. So one cue with handstands and with this, my upper back has to come over before my butt can come over, before my legs can come over. If I just get my legs over, but my back isn't there, that's when I'm gonna go into that banana back arch. So if I'm here and still just get my butt over, I have to worry about getting that back over, then the hips over, then the legs come over. That's gonna help with getting the line. Keep this going. I know I said I wasn't gonna go for that long. We're almost at an hour. But if you guys are still here, I will keep going a little bit more. Okay, so here's a drill of working on playing with those two. Again, if you're a beginner, and I wouldn't say worry about sets and reps, just give yourself time with plenty of rest, and especially if you're on your own, use a video camera. Do one or two, watch yourself, critique it. Oh, okay, I didn't get my back over enough. I needed to go here more. I needed to draw here in more. Oh, my leg was a limp noodle. And then come back to it. Don't worry about the sets and reps. Just do a couple, assess. Do a couple, assess. If you're a little more confident with it and you've done this before, you can go into some sets and reps with it. So I'm here. My gaze is right back here, hands shoulder width apart. I just lock this handstand shape in place. And I work on switches, holding anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds each side. Some of you might be here and work on scissor switches in the air. That's a great way to help you develop the confidence with it. And see how I was doing them too? I wasn't even worried about sticking the handstand, because it's okay if I fall back that way a little bit, because the chair is right there to help me. I am keeping that low belly engaged as much as possible so I'm not landing down hard on the chair. One cue that helps me sometimes, this is great for when you're working on your kicking into handstand and any handstand stuff. At the end, still squeeze as much as possible and try to land down as light as you can. So pretend like you're in an apartment, you have neighbors underneath you that are really grumpy and angry, and that if you make any noise, they're gonna call and yell and complain to you. So you wanna be tiptoe quiet. Or pretend like you've got a broken ankle, and this is when I did have my broken ankle, I couldn't land down hard. So if I fell out of a handstand, I still had to squeeze in here and land down as softly as possible. So think of that with this drill too. Don't even worry about getting the handstand, just worry about that lift off and then land down quietly. Lift off, land down quietly. So I'd recommend on that, probably doing about 5 reps each side, keeping the handstand as sturdy as possible. If you can do more than 5 reps each side, then try to float a little bit more and maybe hold that handstand, extend your float time rather than increasing the reps. So I'd say with most of these things, if you can go more than 5 reps, increase the quality or increase the difficulty. Don't increase the reps, because then you're going to start to just decrease. If you're going for 10 reps on it, the quality is probably going to start to go down, or you're probably not going your very hardest or going to your full level or extent. Okay, so another thing that you can add on with this chair drill or box drill is some compression stuff. So compression is closing in. This helps with our press work. So pressing up to a handstand, we need a lot of compression. So how to create that core strength there. Okay. This I feel like is more difficult than an actual handstand. Okay, so I'm here. I'm going to lift up to my handstand, my supported handstand. I'm going to play with it. Okay. Now I'm going to suck and vacuum that leg in. Tap my wrist. Bring it up. And tap the wrist. You can do about 3. And then maybe switch sides. And then the same thing on the other side. Vacuum in, tap, or go as close as you can, and up. Vacuum in so it doesn't touch the chair. Try not to swing it around the edge of it. And try not to again. Vacuum it in. Again. So that's a great compression exercise, especially if you are working on your press or want to work on your press eventually. Doesn't even need to be something that's going to be right there. It's never ending. Thanks for food or delivered. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Okay, so then I have just one last one on the chair, and that's negative float downs if you are working on your press. And this is for our more advanced people. So if you already have that push shoulder strength developed, you're already isolating, working on your core and that pelvic floor lift, then these are really great. So you'll go back into our L shape. You'll try to lean your shoulders even further forward. So now shoulders are going to come over the fingertips, past the fingertips. And try to float down as slowly as possible. It might not be that slow yet. You're thinking press up. Gravity will take you down. You're trying to think press up and resist gravity as much as you can. Okay. So, just to recap on a couple things so that when you guys do this on your own, we worked on the wall walks and the wall holds and different variations of that, depending on what your level or layer is. And then we worked on chair or box drills, all focusing on being in the L shape. All of our concepts were the same today, and that's going to transfer over to any handstand drill that you do. So building from the ground up, the hands, this area of the hand, and pull grip with the fingers. Blocks are great to work with, but remember that as you get more advanced, you can't start to let them become a crutch because they are something to grip onto. When you're using blocks, either 2 fingers right here or 3 fingers. That's the 2 main ways to use them. And so you can really pull with them. Creates a solid foundation. But yeah, just remember that as you get too comfortable with them. Okay, so the hands, super key. And then the shoulder blades, remember, are a couple terms, protraction and retraction. Protract, retract, and then elevation and depression. For handstands, we want a combination of protraction and elevation. We worked on isolating it in our warm-ups, or that can be in exercises that you do, just upright, no weight. And then we worked on that on our chair holds, on our wall holds, of getting those scap lifts or just holding in that scap lift. And we're supported by muscle in our shoulder blade area. It's a straight arm strength movement, not a bent arm. This is bent arm. That's straight arm, okay? Then we worked on those core things. I gave a little bit of a teaser with some core stuff that I do. So helping on developing that strength needed to access a hollow body form with your core. So those were isolating those things, and you can break it down even more. Okay, so those were our main things. And then we took that into some basic wall and box drills. So I hope that was really helpful for you guys. We are at an hour now, so I am going to wrap up. I'm going to look through just in case we have any quick questions to answer. Yay. This is saved. Oh, and it's so great to see some of you guys who I've worked with before. I struggle with pull-ups. Okay, so pull-ups. So push and pull are opposite movements. So I really encourage working on both. There's a lot of yogis, and myself included at the beginning, and I was all just push with yoga, and I needed to counter that with pull stuff. So they are different forms of strength, but working the opposite is going to help keep you balanced. So pull-ups and scap pull-ups. All right, so I know I went over the hour already, you guys, I don't know if some of you guys have already logged off, but I just wanted to close up. So I know I answered a little bit too much. Just finishing up that last one that I had, the pull-up thing. It's a great thing to work on your pull-ups and your scap pull-ups. So it's going to help counter that as well as just develop strength in that overall area. So I do recommend working on both. So sorry to have gone so far over because we are at an hour, but it seems like a lot of you guys were really engaged. So we will have to do more of this. I really love working with Bohemian Island. They are an amazing company. And I'm not just saying that because I work with them. I work with them for free just because I really love them. They're great people. I love the cause that they support. They donate to the Soy Dog Foundation in Thailand. If you don't know about that, go onto their page, read a little bit more. It's really near and dear to my heart. So yes, there are a lot of these Bohemian, Thailand, Bali pants, but the reason that I encourage getting them from Bohemian Island and not just anywhere is because they are a great company, they're great people, and they do donate to this really wonderful cause. Arch lower back, hip thrust is difficult. But yes, the core drills will definitely help with that, especially if you don't have that pelvic control. Working on all spinal movement things is going to help, but specifically activating that pelvic floor and working on pelvic movement drills is going to help with all of that, with your hip thrust too, because the whole main purpose of a hip thrust is that posterior pelvic tilt. It's not even as much about creating height. Some of us, see, it's not actually flat. Here now I'm arching and I want to tuck more. But yeah, can you explain best placement height of the chair for the L shape? Really, it's gonna be what you have available. I think something that's a standard chair height is probably best. A box that's about 24 inches is about best. But really it's working with what you have. If it's too low, then you're gonna be in this place, which is okay if you're super flexible. If you're not bendy, maybe having something a little bit higher so it creates less flexion for you to have to do on the hips. This is pretty tough for a lot of people if you don't already have some good hamstring and hip flexibility. So higher if you're less flexible, lower, not ideal, but definitely have to be bendier in order to access that. So yeah, I am going to officially close up now, as much as I'd love to keep going. A lot of times at my workshops, I stay an hour, 2 hours after, nerding out with people. So yeah, I will be definitely doing more of these, and I really appreciate you guys all signing in and showing up. Feel free, follow me, DM me, message me on my own page, Erika.Gasztonyi, so it's Erika with a K, .Gaszz, and I should be the only one that pops up. I'm on the Bohemian Island page too, so you can look me up there. And I'd love to chat more with you guys and work more with you guys. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day.